think we should start. Welcome everyone, and I'm really glad to have you all here on the November 2022 Romania Power BI and Modern Excel User Group meetup. This is the 11th meetup of the year and the 22nd in total. And today we have another very special guest presenting, Melissa de Korte. Thank you, Melissa, for accepting our invitation, and I'm honored to have you here. As I told you when I first saw you presenting at the Vancouver Power BI User Group, I hoped that I'll be able to have you here as a guest, and our community can learn from your experience. For our newest members, my name is Christian, and I will be your host today. Let's go quickly through the agenda today. This is the welcome and overview session. I'll have a few slides at the beginning. Then I'll be presenting the next meetups. Then Melissa will have her feature presentation. We'll have a final live Q&A in the end, but we'll also have some intermediary ones at the normal breaking points. And then just before wrapping up, we will have the Enterprise DNA Ruffle, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it when we'll get there. Few things regarding the session itself. Please have your microphones muted during the session. Use the chat for questions, and please prefix your questions with a Q so we can spot them easier. If you have problems with internet, like I used to have from time to time, no problem. Just drop off and log in again. Teams is recording anyway the entire meeting. And speaking of recording, be advised that the session is recorded, and the recording will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. In terms of next meetup, we will have in December Andrei Lapaine again coming with another session with the Zebra BI charts and the Zebra BI add-ins, but this time not on Power BI. You will be surprised to find that the Zebra BI launched some add-ins for Excel, and you will be totally amazed about these two add-ins that he will present. We haven't decided the date yet. It will be before Christmas, probably on the 21st of December, but the final dates are not established. Just like in January, when we know who's coming, we know in general what Oz du Soleil will present, and I'm thinking something about Power Query and things to consider when you are doing Power Query, but it's not exactly established. The only thing that's sure is that Oz is coming in January, and I'm really happy that he accepted our invitation. And in February, we will have Chandu coming with a session on modern Excel. Same, we don't have all the details yet, but I will let you know as soon as we have everything prepared. I will announce the event on our meetup page, and you will know exactly the date, the detail, the session details, and everything. If we spoke about future meetups, we also have all the recordings of our past meetups on YouTube. Just go to bit.ly/ropag_history, and you will see all our previous meetups, and you can learn a lot of things from our great speaker line. As I said, coming back to the Enterprise DNA Ruffle, not sure if you know, but Melissa is an Enterprise DNA expert, and this is another reason why I'm really happy she's here. Starting August last year, we have a very valuable partnership with Enterprise DNA. They became our primary official sponsor. And on every meetup, they are offering two full package, full 1-year membership licenses to our live attendees. So please scan the QR code. You will find a Microsoft form with all the details, whether you want to participate in the raffle or not. You can register for the raffle using this form. But anyway, even if you don't want to participate in the raffle, please scan the QR code, fill up the form, and help us improve our future meetups. Don't worry if you haven't had time to scan the code. I will put the link in the chat during the session, so no worries. Coming back to the session today, welcome again, Melissa, and thanks for accepting our invitation. As I said before, I'm really happy to you find some time in your schedule for Romania Power BI user group community, and we're really looking forward to learn from you. For who doesn't know Melissa, she's one of the two Power Query queens. This is how I like to call them. It's her and Imke Feldman, and she's one of my main go-to persons when I really want to understand something related to Power Query. Her explanations and examples are just great, regardless if it's a LinkedIn article or an answer on Enterprise DNA forum or inside any of her 2 courses on Enterprise DNA platform. Melissa is an expert data analysis from the Netherlands, and we've never met in person yet, but I know that there was, at least up until 3 years ago, an Excel conference in Amsterdam, and maybe that one will come back. I really hope we will be able to meet in person sometimes in the future. So thanks again. Please, few words about you, and the stage is yours, Melissa.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. So can you please tell me if that's visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Awesome, because it's always nice when that works, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll kick off with a brief introduction. Of course, thank you so much, Christian, for having me, because it's a two-way street, right? If I have something to present but nowhere to present it, that won't work either. So I'm very happy to be here. So thank you for that. Here we go. My name is Melissa, and as Christian already mentioned, I'm an Enterprise DNA expert. Now, that's a title that can be awarded to members for their contributions to the community, in my case, by providing support on their forum. To date, I've also created 2 courses on Power Query for Enterprise DNA, which both can be accessed through their learning platform. The first covers fundamentals, and the second is very dear to me because that focuses on practical application and problem solving, which we will be doing in a short while. Currently, I'm in the process of finalizing a 3rd course, and hopefully that will be released either before the end of the year or maybe early 2023. So let's take a look at our scenario today. So this is our topic. We will be transforming pivoted data into a tabular format that's suited for analysis. And this is a very common requirement, especially if you get your data from Excel. The sample that I'm using was provided by Access Analytic. There's a link at the bottom of the page. Win Hopkins runs most of their challenges. Personally, I'm a huge fan of those for 2 main reasons. First, you get the chance to, or you have the chance to get some dedicated practice in, which is always a good thing and a lot of fun. And second, it's also very insightful to dissect submissions from others. So if we look at the data that's on screen, we'll review it in the advanced editor in a little bit as well. But column A has a description, and you could identify that as column headers because it describes something about all of the values that come after it. That means that all subsequent columns here are values associated with that description. Now the goal is to turn that into this tabular format, which has just 2 columns, a date column and a number of employee column. So based on this scenario, I've created 3 solutions that we will be reviewing today. So let's go to the Power Query editor. And I'll create a reference to my sample. Let's reference that. Disable that from load. There we go. Let's zoom in a bit as well. Hopefully that will look a bit better on your screens. Perfect. So when working in the Power Query editor, it's a best practice to have both the formula bar and the query settings pane visible at all times. So if that's not the case, you can go to the View tab right here, and you can toggle them on. So, as I said, we have a description column here, and everything that's beside it that belongs to that description. Furthermore, we have week ending columns here, and they all describe the same thing. Now, to me, that shouts out transpose me. So that's the first thing that I'll do. I'll go to the Transform tab and select Transpose. So now I can elevate that first row to the headers. So let's do that as well. Perfect. So all of our values are now in the rows section, but they're spread across many columns. So typically I would want to unpivot that. Unpivoting means that the column names become the attribute to the value that's underneath. Let's see that in action. I'll press Ctrl-A to select all of my columns. Go to Unpivot and Unpivot columns. So in the formula bar here, you can see that called the function table.unpivot other columns. And the neat thing is that although I selected all of my columns, there is no column name reference here. Instead, we have an empty list here as second argument to this function, which usually contains the pivot column, so the thing that you're churning your data on. But that's empty because we unpivoted all of our data. Let me take a quick sit. So all of our data is now stacked on top of each other, and we want to separate out these values. Now for that, you typically want to create a unified label that describes the data, the values. And that can also serve as a column header. For a task like that, you can use a conditional column. So I'll go to the Add Column tab. And I need to select one column. Now it becomes available. Add a conditional column. And here we need to generate some logic to generate a value for each of these values, right? So I'm going to create some logic that will help me with that. Now there are a lot of ways that you can do this, but try to choose something that makes sense for the data that you're working on. So in my case, I'll be looking for something in the attribute column. So I'm going to select that as my value. I'm going to see if that contains a specific piece of text. And the text that I'm going to look for is employee. So I'm omitting the capital E on purpose, because you never know if that is always consequently in capital E. So I'm omitting that, and since that is always present at that number value, that should get me some good logic, and now I can create a value for that. So if that's the case, then we have the number of employees. And if we don't find that piece of text, that piece of string in the attribute column, then we have a date. So else, press OK. Perfect. Now there's one more problem that we need to address, and that's that our data is spread across 2 rows. So row 1 and 2, those belong together, row 3 and 4, and so on. So we need to generate a key to keep those values together. But typically for a task like that, an index is used. So I'll add an index column. I'll add that from 0. And that, of course, generates a unique number for each of the lines in my table. So that's not what I want. I need to update that value to do something else with it. So make sure that column is selected. I'll go to the Transform tab. And under Standard, I will select Integer Divide. Again, my data is spread across 2 rows, so I'll enter a 2 here and press OK. So at this time, each set of rows has the same key in the index column. Perfect. And we no longer need the attribute, so I can remove that column. I'll select that, press Delete. Perfect. I'll select the custom column. And now I want to pivot my data, because whatever is here in the custom column, I want that to be my new column headers. So I'm going to pivot on this column. So under Transform, select Pivot Column. And it already guessed that my values are in the value column. That's correct. But be aware to always check the advanced options here. Currently, it wants to do a count of everything. I don't need that. What I want is all of the values returned. To do that, you have to select Do Not Aggregate. So select that and press OK. Perfect. So we're almost done. No longer need the index column, so I can remove that. Just press Delete and some final cleanup. Let's see. Again, omit the blanks here and set appropriate data types. So this is a date and a time value, as you can see. And if I were to select date like this, it would error out. So instead, always choose the date and time. I'll replace the current. Perfect. This is a whole number. And now I can extract the date or add another change type step. Let's do that. Select date, add it as a new step. So we'll do that. Perfect. So this is, I think, the most straightforward user interface solution to a scenario like this. We didn't have to write any M code. It was fully done through the user interface. So that's awesome. Are there any questions on this, Christian?
No question until now.
Perfect.
As I said, your explanations are more or less very clear, and I only see some thumbs up and some applause, but no question.
Awesome. Okay. So we'll move on to the second solution to this specific challenge. I'll create another reference. I'll right-click that. And I'll call that hybrid. Disable load. Perfect. So there are always, in my opinion at least, a multitude of ways to solve any problem. And if you feel you're kind of ready to gradually move beyond solely using the user interface, you can move to something like this, a sort of hybrid solution. I think that's a very good place to start. You will still use a lot of the power of the user interface, but you start to make some modifications to the code as well. And that's just being smart and efficient. So that is an excellent strategy. All right. So let's think about it. I think this time around, I will start by creating a helper to keep my pairs of rows together. That means I will start by adding the index first. Here we go. On the Add Column tab, I'll select Index Column. No, that's fine. Again, of course, we are going to change that value to have it as a shared key across both of those lines. So on the Transform tab, I'll select Standard, integer divide, enter it to here, press OK. Perfect. And now we can use this key to collect all of the data that's associated with it. And that transformation is called group by. So make sure the index column is selected when you do that. So select your key. That makes it a lot easier. And group by, you can find that in a lot of places. So it's at the front here on the Transform tab. You will also find it on the Home tab here in the Transform section. But you can also right-click that header. So I'll do that and select group by here. So it brings the selected columns as keys to the top, and then you can select an operation. Now I want to collect all of my data that's associated with that key. So as an operation, I will choose all rows. I'll give that a better name as well. And press OK. So assuming that we're not that comfortable writing M code yet, we have to be smart about it. So when I move my mouse over one of these objects here, you can see that my mouse pointer changes. So let's just click on one of those values. And clicking on a nested structured value means that you drill down into that. You can also see that in the applied steps pane on the right-hand side here, that added a navigation step. It's not called navigation now, but it is a navigation type step. So of course, there's an upside to this. We can use the user interface again. The downside is we've lost all of our data except this specific table. That might not be what we want. So I'll remove this step, press the X in front. You can always revert back to the previous state with an action like that. And instead of clicking directly on that value, I will now click off to the side in the white space. So drill down, that's the thing that we just did. That didn't work so good. Let's select Add as New Query. So I'll select that. And it added it here. Perfect. So the good thing is that we still have all of our data. And the other good thing is we now have a small sample that we can use to design some more advanced code. But because we've extracted that and added that as a separate query, we are now able to leverage the user interface again. Awesome. So let's see what we can do. I don't need the description, so I'm going to delete that. Just press the delete button on your keyboard. Let's see, the index. Don't need that any longer either, so I'll delete that as well. Perfect. So our data is now perfectly in a line, and what I want to do is just flip it on its side. So I end up with one column with dates and one column with values. Here we go. on the Transform tab, we'll select Transpose. And we can filter out the blanks as well. Perfect. So we've just created a series of transformation steps that you can see in the applied steps pane. We removed columns, we transposed our table, and we filtered down the rows. That's the logic that we want to transfer to our other query. So I'm going to open the advanced editor window. So removed columns, transposed table, and filtered rows. I'm going to select that, Control C to copy it. Done. Perfect. Step back to our design query. And if we want to apply this logic, we need a place to put it. Now, there are a couple of ways you can do that, but the most easy part, especially when you get started, is just by adding a custom column. So with that mini table icon, I'm going to click that and select Add a Custom Column. Not too bothered with the name. All I want to do is bring in my value. So I'll select all rows, press OK, or don't press OK, double click it first, then press OK. There we go. So as you can see, there is no difference right now. We have that table here, and that's exactly the same as our data here. But we are going to modify this table. I'm going to do that in the advanced editor window. Here we go. Let's zoom in a bit. So here is the each expression, and the each expression, that just means do something for each of the rows in my table. Currently, for each of the rows in my table, I've collected the nested table that was present in the all rows field. I'm going to create some space, so I'm going to press Enter to go to a new line, press Tab. And another thing to note about the code that we're seeing on the screen right now is that we are looking at a let expression. Now, the cool thing about a let expression is that it allows you to create basically a single expression over multiple steps. So you have a let here, you have an in clause there, and in between there's a comma delimited list of variables and values assigned to them. And whatever variable you call after the in clause, that's the result of your let expression. Now we've just copied 3 steps. So we're going to need something like a nested let expression. Let's create that. Let here, press Enter. And I'm just going to paste in those steps, Control V. There we go. Let's indent that a bit. Awesome. Now I still have that table reference here, right? I'm going to X that out. And in that first step, we have the first variable here, or the first argument here, that refers to a table. Now this refers to nothing that's known inside this query. And we need to transform, of course, that nested table that we already brought in. So I'm going to replace this expression with the field name reference that I copied. So we're transforming our nested table here, and we're doing that for each row in the table. We're removing columns, we're transposing that data, and we're filtering down those rows. See what that does. If it works, press down. Well, hopefully it worked. Let's see. So again, this is our table. And let's take a peek here. Great, that looks awesome. So I've transformed all of those separate tables, and our data is there. I no longer need anything else in this table. I'm going to right-click that header and delete other columns. There we go, remove other columns. And now I can expand the fields from those tables. So with the expand column option, just uncheck that, select everything, press OK. Awesome. Now, when you do that, you get the table expand table column function, and it references the previous step, the column that you're expanding, the fields you are getting from that table in this case, and finally the new column names. Now, column 1 and column 2 is not very descriptive, so let's update that. The first column is date, and the second column is number of employees. Let's press that check mark again. Perfect. So we no longer have to remove the empty lines here. We already did that. Just need to transform those data types to the appropriate ones. So here we go. Again, this is a datetime. This is a whole number. And now we can extract the date. So on transform, this time I'll go to date only. Awesome. So solution number 2, playing it smart. Any questions on this, Christian?
No actual question, but a really cool remark from Oakley, saying that it's a really cool method, looping in M code without a custom function.
Yeah.
And lots of applauses and thumbs up as usual.
Great stuff. Wonderful. So one more to go. All right. So I hope
Let's go to the last one.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure people will come back to the recording to see details when this needs to be implemented in our own work, because this is what I usually do. Yeah, I see it. It totally makes sense to me, understand it, but when I want to use it, it's not working from first try.
Yeah, then something like this is really helpful. Yeah. And also, I mean, the UI, the user interface is fantastic, right? So
yeah,
if you know your way around it, you can already build so many great things.
There's one question from Russell. Can we have the file in the end so we can see it working?
Most
or
definitely.
Can you post the source?
Most definitely. I'll email it to you. I don't know. Do you have a way to distribute that?
Yes, I will put it together with the link for both in the YouTube channel and on our user group members when
Awesome.
I send the recording link.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure that you get that. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. All right. So on to our final solution already. And this time around, we will be writing some actual M code. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that. Here we go. I'll right-click my sample data again to create a reference. And I think I forgot to mention referencing means that you just refer to the output or the result of another query. You're not copying any of the underlying M code. So that's what that is all about. Let's see, let's call this custom. Right? Here we go. So we've seen a fully user interface solution. We've seen a hybrid solution, playing it really smart. Now we're going to code our way to an answer. And the first thing that I'm going to do, because I want to extract the values on all of the rows in this table, is I'm going to add a custom column. So I'll add that here. And all I have to do to get the current value in a table is enter the nameless variable that belongs to each expression, and that's the underscore. So let's see what this does. Here we go. And that returns a record. Awesome. Let's click off to the side. Make that a bit bigger. Wonderful. So entering the underscore means that you're extracting the values from the current row in the table. The current row in the table, that's a record. It has fields, and the field is a field name, field value pair, as you can see below right here. So these are these are the field names, these are the field values. And again, I'm not very interested in the description. So smart people would say, step back to the source and delete that column, but I want to code. So I'm going to do a different thing. I'll click inside the formula bar right here. And I'm going to remove this field from the record. So here we go. Record, remove fields. Where it is. There it is. Press tab to select it. Now the record, we're getting that from the underscored. Fields as any. So description, that's the thing that I want to omit. I'm going to pass that as a text string. Here we go. Yeah, I didn't make any typos. Let's add that closing bracket. Press that check mark. And take another peek inside. Awesome. All right. So I still have a record, but I just need the field values. I don't need the field names. Let's see what we can do about that. And as you can see, also my record contains more than one value, right? So that probably means that I have to turn that into a list. Here we go. Record to list. Awesome. Just wrap that around it. Press that check mark again. And the record is now a list. Let's take another peek inside. Great. Wonderful. So we had a record. We've omitted a field from that record. We extracted all of the field values. And now everything that we need is in that custom column. So let's drill down into that because it contains everything that I want. Drill down. Perfect. All right, time for another zip. So in the applied steps pane, you can see that this added that custom one step, that drill down action, and that returns the list that we're seeing here on the screen. All right, time to open the advanced editor window. Here we go. I'll zoom in a bit. Again, a let expression is a comma delimited list of variable names and expressions assigned to them. So I have to start by adding a comma in here at the end, press enter, and now I can create a new variable and assign that a value as well. I'm going to call that T. All right. Now we need to understand something about lists, and that's that a list is an ordered sequence of values. That means that the item order in the list is fixed. So we know all of the list items because they're in the exact same order as the rows were in the table. And that's a good thing to know because that will help us separate out these values. Here we go. I'm going to use a function called list alternate. Pass in my list. I'm just going to copy that variable name here. Then it wants a count as number. Now that's the number of items to skip each time. So I want to skip just one item. Next it wants a repeat interval. And that's the number of values to keep in between the skipped items. That's going to be a 1 as well. And finally, an offset. And that's the starting position at the list. Now we want to start at the beginning, which I don't know if that makes sense, but you can see a 1 right here. So we're going to start at position 1. All right. Let's just see what this does. So I'm going to press, let's see, we have to return that. So go see here and press that. I don't know if that did anything. Let's see. So the first one contains dates. Awesome. The second one should contain dates as well. Let's take a look. Perfect. Now, if we were to omit that final parameter, the starting position, we would start by skipping one before we're retaining one. That means we should get the numbers. Let's see if that is the case. Remove that, press that check mark, click off to the side. Wonderful, awesome, perfect. Now we have a list with nested lists, and we want to extract the values from all of those lists, right? There's a function for that as well. Just add that in the formula bar, list combine. Look that up, press tab, that around it, and press that check mark again. Wonderful. So we have a way to identify all of the values with dates. And we have a way to identify and retrieve all of the values of the numbers that are associated with those dates. Perfect. Let's build a table. I'll open the advanced editor window. Let's zoom in a bit again. There we go. This. And we're going to build a table from columns. So table from columns. Open that up. It wants lists as a list because you can have more columns in a table. So with those list initializers, those curly brackets, we're going to create a list and we can pass lists into this. I'm going to paste back the code once, add a comment at the end, press enter and paste it back again. All I have to do to make sure that that first column of my table is going to contain the dates is add back that starting position. So here we go. Fine. This function also allows me to specify new column names. So I'll do that as well. I'll add a comma here. Have more columns. So I'm going to pass that as a list. And column names are always text values. So my first one is going to be date, comma, and the last one, number of employees. Perfect. Let's press done. Great. So final cleanup again. Just the easy bit, just filter out the blanks here. And set appropriate data types. So this is a datetime, whole number. And we'll turn this back into a date again. Right, click there, date, add it as a new step. Perfect. So this is the final bit of magic. Let me know which of the solutions you like best. And of course, if there are any questions.
Well, there is no actual question, but for me personally, the last solution was the best one. I first saw list.alternate on your session on Vancouver Power BI user group, and I've used it since. And I love how you are combining, how you are constructing the table from different lists. This is my favorite part from this solution, and this is why I love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
There is a question from Bruno. If you have a very large data set, which method will be the fastest?
That's a very good question. That's always a hard one to answer as well. So you would have to test that. But I did do a bit of testing, so we can take a look at that as well.
So you are prepared.
Yes, sometimes I'm prepared, Christian. We'll close and load this, and we'll take a look at our final page.
I knew that.
You knew this, yes. You'll recognize the visuals as well, right? This is some monkey, yes. Monkey tools. Yeah, awesome.
Which is really cool.
It is, yeah. So we did some query timings. Of course, I it is a small sample, so we had to blow that up a bit to get some actual measurements, and did 5 trials on it. And you'll see the solutions compared to one another. So this is the solution from the UI. Takes about 8.5 seconds, so not that bad. Pretty decent if you ask me. You can cut off about half if you do the hybrid solution. If you apply that, it already saves you a lot of time. And finally, the custom solution in the end, you can still cut off about, I don't know, what is it, 16% or so, something like that, which is awesome. It's almost 60% faster than the UI solution.
This is really cool. I have one more question regarding a function that I've used it only for tests like this. And I'm curious whether you've found an actual use for table.repeat elsewhere than in testing. Have you?
I can't say that I have. In an actual solution for, no.
No,
Except for testing, I've had no use case for that function. I did, however, have a use case for list.repeat in an actual solution. But no, not so much table.repeat. No.
This the list.repeat might be a future session on Romania Power BI user group, right?
If you're happy to have me back, sure, why not? Yeah, always happy.
I'm always happy to learn from the best. Anyone else, if you have any question in the chat, please share it. Let me share my screen also. For now, nothing actually popped up as questions. Yeah, there is one from Zhu.
Yeah.
Why did we use list combine rather than list.zip? What are the why are they different? How are they different?
So I'm basically using creating columns for a table, and those columns are as a list. When you use list.zip, think of that as an actual zipper. So the data that shares the same position in a list, that data gets combined into a new list. So that means that instead of creating columns, instead of creating 2 columns, I would create 2 rows and a lot of columns if I use list.zip. Does that make sense, Solar?
I think so. For me, yes, I understood. Hopefully the answer was good for Solar. The zip, would it be like an inner join? There's another question from J. Lu. The zip, would it be like an inner join?
No, it's basically a combination of values that share the same position. So if you list.zip, you use it on a set of lists that can be 2, 3, 4, but whatever shares the same position in the list, those values get combined into a new list. So everything that's on the first position in the list, that gets transformed into a new list, and that happens for each position that has a value in those lists. And when the length of those lists items are not equal to one another, nulls get added to fill that space. I hope that clarifies it a bit.
So everything is related to the position in the list.
Exactly, yeah.
Got it. Any other question, guys? Because otherwise, we'll go to the enterprise DNA Ruffle. Thanking Melissa for the great session. I loved it. The few more minutes for the Ruffle and then the wrap up after the Ruffle and the final words.
I do have one small remark left to make.
Please.
Is that I'll be doing my final webinar of this year on December 13th or December 14th, depending on where in the world you are. So in about 3 weeks' time, I'll be presenting for Enterprise DNA. If you liked learning a bit about M and enjoyed this session, maybe you'd like to join me then and there as well. The session will be on Power Query Root to Mastery, Challenge Yourself, which is meant to both inspire and be a call to action. So I will cover some challenges found online to illustrate some key techniques. And yeah, I hope to do some mind-blowing M stuff there as well. So if you have the time, I would love for you all to join me there and then as well. I'll see if I can post a link to that.
Please do so, and I will also announce it when the recording is over. And
you can find the session details there.
Okay, thank you. And there is one more question from Alex Suleiman. Outside the scope of the presentation, any suggestion how to handle refresh when source files column change? Option 1, same order of columns but different name, change capitalization, or option 2, edit columns. So, dynamic sources with dynamic names, names of columns.
If the position remains fixed of the order of the column order and the number of columns is the same, then you can. It's quite an easy fix for that. Just rename all of the tables that you bring in, give them the same name, and you're good to go. So that would be definitely something to look into. And what was the other question? So that was the different names?
Yeah, and the different number of columns.
Well, hopefully that means that the new columns have different data in them. And if that's the case, you can just check the maximum number of columns to always make sure that you bring everything in. But that means you will get a lot of nulls across the tables, of course, that did not have data for that column. But you can do that as well.
And I also think it depends on the type of data, because you could always keep one column fixed and unpivot everything, make sure you have everything. Yeah,
it would look any solution or any scenario, everything that you think of, it will be very much dependent on the scenario that you're facing.
Exactly.
So it's very difficult to share a solution like this. I'm just saying stuff that comes to my mind, but definitely share something if you need any help or assistance. I'll be happy to look into that with you. Just reach out on LinkedIn.
One more thing, could you please share your contacts again, so that everybody can see them and connect on LinkedIn and.
Sure, it should be on the meetup page as well. Let's see.
I think you had the LinkedIn contact on the first page, right?
I had it on the slide, yeah, but it's not a text value that I can easily copy. Do you want me to just share that? I'll just share it again.
Yes, please.
There we go.
Yeah, that's it. So
it's at the bottom here. Just my name. I'm always happy to connect with anyone and everyone. So if we don't know each other already, just send out a request. I'll be happy to connect with you.
Well, thanks again, Melissa. It was an amazing session. Thank you. And we'll get going quickly on the Ruffle and then the final wrap up. And whoever wants to stay a little bit more after we stop the recording, feel free to stay will open mics, open cameras, and we'll stay for some chit chat afterwards. Let me share my screen again and move to the Ruffle. So as the existing members already know, I'm using some integration between Forms and SharePoint and Power BI and Power Apps to run the actual Ruffle. For whoever is curious, I did a session 2 weeks ago on Enterprise DNA demoing exactly this, how everything is integrated. And I'll be happy to paste the link afterwards. We have 8 participants in the Ruffle, 14 answers. Let's see who are the 8 participants. Let's go to the Power Query. Always Power Query to the rescue. Copy the names and move to the wheel of names. This one, it's not needed. Let's shuffle the names and extract the first participants. First winner. Sairam from India. Congrats, you're the first winner. And shuffle again and get the second winner by spinning the wheel. Alec from Sweden. Congrats, you're the second winner. I will send you an email after this meetup just to confirm your email address and make sure that it's the right one for the Ruffle, for the Enterprise DNA license. I only want to thank you all again for joining today's session, and looking forward to have you back in December with the next session. Thank you again, Melissa, for participating, and you are always welcome to present to Romania Power BI user group.
Thank you. Thank you. I would love to be back.
So thank you, everyone, and I will stop the recording now.